کاوش مدیا.
O'Connor, a senior foreign policy writer at Newsweek. Tom, welcome to the program. I mean, Washington blames Iran-backed militias for such attacks as we're reporting on Erbil International Airport. How much of a real threat to stability and security are these groups in Iraq?
So the group in question that claimed responsibility is called Saraya Awliya Adem. It's part of the broader axis of resistance, which is a very much Iran-aligned loose network of actors. But what's important to remember is that some of these groups within the axis of resistance, such as Kitab Hezbollah, Kitab Sayyid al-Shuhada, which were two of the groups that the U.S. struck just not that long ago, Biden ordered them along Iraq and Syria. These two groups are part of the Popular Mobilization Forces, which is an Iraqi state-sponsored grouping of militias that played a frontline role in the fight against ISIS and very much still today retains arms and influence throughout the country.
What about the influence of Iran overall on Iraqi politics? You mentioned those American airstrikes on the border between Syria and Iraq. A day afterwards, I spoke to a member of the local Baghdad government, and he said, for us Iraqis, those militias are not a problem, and the Americans are violating our sovereignty. Was he telling the truth, or do you think that Iran has that much influence that actually he didn't have any choice but to say that?
Well, the Popular Mobilization Forces and even these groups that are the more powerful ones who obviously act, within their own interests and on their own whims, these groups are Iraqi. They're not Iranian. They do many times have very close relationships with Iran. They receive funding and at times training and arms from Iran, but they reflect a segment of Iraqi society which has existed and especially amplified its voices since the rise of ISIS. So they certainly see the U.S. presence as a violation of their sovereignty, and part of what their strategy right now is, especially groups that have been launching rocket attacks against the U.S., is to make the U.S. feel unwelcome. The U.S. has said before that it plans a steady withdrawal of U.S. troops from Iraq. That has been delayed, and so the goal of these groups is to make a headache basically for the U.S. and for the Iraqi government as well to host these U.S. troops.
آنچه در مورد ما میگویند.